Have you ever felt the crushing responsibility of having to save the entire population of the human race on Earth? Well, I have, and it's no picnic. I didn't like feeling that the fate of all human race lied in my hands. I didn't want that responsibility, but I felt burdened by it. I had no choice because, after all, I was God. Believing that I was God is one of many examples I have of the grandiose delusions I experienced in psychosis. And for anyone who doesn't know, a grandiose delusion is a type of fixed false belief in which a person may have a really inflated sense of self. They may believe that they are very important, very attractive, very intelligent, invincible, can't be harmed. They may believe, in my case, that they are God. They may believe that they are chosen to save the world from whatever doom may be impending, things along those lines, things where you're pretty much the most important person on Earth. Now, grandiose delusions sound kind of exciting, right? Before I really knew what that was, I guess I had this feeling of it being like a manic dreamland where everything is awesome. Like, who wouldn't want to be the most important person? I mean, that sounds great, right? Like, wouldn't that be a great time? Wouldn't that be fun? Well, the thing is, I think on the surface, grandiose delusions might sound fun, but like any fixed false belief, they are deeply ingrained in you and are so much more layered than just that surface of, this is a great time, I'm feeling fantastic. A lot of feelings of irritability may surface, suspicion, paranoia. It, like I said, can feel very stressful to think you're responsible for the human race. So grandiose delusions on the surface, while they may seem really awesome, are pretty complex. And today we're going to go into grandiose delusions and their complexities, how they are so much more than what you see, how on the inside they actually are pretty overwhelming. So close your eyes and dream me home. Before we get started, I would just like to throw out a disclaimer to say that I am not a mental health care professional and I am in no way qualified to give any advice, medical, psychiatric, or otherwise. Who I am simply is a person with lived experience having serious mental illness who is here to share with you the wisdom and insight I've gleaned along my journey of recovery. Also, a trigger warning to say that the subject of psychosis in and of itself is a sensitive subject that may at times be difficult to talk about. So if at any point during today's video I say anything that may be triggering or upsetting to you, you are more than welcome to leave. In this video specifically, we will be talking about some of the consequences of grandiose delusions that are actually rather traumatic. So if that is not up your alley, you are more than welcome to leave. I remember my first exposure to grandiose delusions through one of my friends in the mental hospital. At the time, I was diagnosed with bipolar disorder type 2, and now I know that I actually have schizoaffective disorder, which is schizophrenia and bipolar in one disorder, but at the time, I had only ever had mood episodes. There was no evidence of the schizophrenia, so that was my diagnosis, bipolar type 2. And in the psych ward in high school, I met a girl who had bipolar type 1, and this very heavily leans towards mania, really extreme mania. And with mania, you can have delusions of grandeur, grandiose delusions. And she would tell me some of her experiences that sounded so far out there. Now, like I said, there are some pretty extreme consequences of grandiose delusions. So here's a little trigger warning for you to say that my friend's story is a little bit sensitive. And if you would like to skip forward, I will put a timestamp where you can go to. Now, my friend had some delusions of being invincible, right? She believed that she couldn't be harmed, she couldn't be killed, she couldn't be injured. And because of this belief, she would do really, really risky things. She would run in front of traffic on a crowded highway because she didn't think she could be hit by cars. And thank God she did not get hit. But just because she had that belief doesn't mean that she actually was impervious to harm. Another thing that she did that I don't quite know the full story of was go streaking. And I can relate to that. I've talked about that a lot in my videos. Now, my streaking was born out of paranoia, but hers was this really heightened sense of self, as I said. She had this really intense grandiose delusion that kind of brought her into this mental state where she felt she had to go streaking, and she got caught by the police splashing around in a fountain. When Sarah told me these things, I was honestly shocked. How could this 16-year-old girl go streaking? I couldn't imagine. What kind of a mental state would you have to be in that you would think that was the right thing to do? Well, after that first lesson in Grandiose Delusions from Sarah, I got to learn firsthand through my own experiences what grandiose delusions are like. My second, I want to say, psychotic episode had a lot of grandiose delusions, especially because with my schizoaffective disorder, I do have periods of mania. And the mania really, really loves grandiose delusions. So I started having really exciting delusions that honestly felt great at the time. For instance, I believed that I was in control of all the weather, and I would go outside in the rain and be like, yes, my creation. Like, I loved it. I felt that this was all me, all my creation. I used to think that I could talk to animals, and I was like, I don't know if I'd say that was a grandiose delusion, but I got such a kick out of it. I really enjoyed my delusions at first. The longer the delusions went on, the more agitated I felt because they were really starting to stress me out. I think with any delusion, it just compounds on itself the longer it goes. So if you're in a delusion that lasts like months, it really, really weighs on you because you start to get these layers. It becomes more detailed, like it becomes a lot more serious. And the grandiose delusions that started with dancing in the rain became feeling that crushing responsibility, feeling that it was all on me to save the world. I had a few delusions along this line. I didn't always believe I was God, but in a lot of different ways, I did believe that it was on me to save the world. I was that important, that it was all me. And that's a lot to take on. And I didn't know if I could do it. And I didn't know what I was supposed to save. Like, I didn't know when the signs would come. I just felt that I had to prepare. And so I would be like deep diving on Wikipedia, learning about metaphysics and stuff. And I would be like reaching out to the Celtic Buddhists in Vermont, who thankfully never actually returned my crazy emails. And I was trying to like mentally prepare myself because I didn't know what I needed to know. But I knew that when I'd get there, I would know what to do. Like, I had this feeling that I wasn't sure what was going to happen, but when it would happen, I'd be ready. And in that frantic, heightened state of grandiose delusions and mania, I was super, I don't know, like productive. I don't know if that's the right word, but I was like obsessively looking into things that fueled that delusion. Like, I was going out of my way to reinforce the delusion, honestly. One thing that at least happens to me with delusions is I look for confirmation of the delusion. A lot of people will try to discount my delusions and tell me they're not real, and that just further drives me to try to find evidence that I'm right. And any small confirmation is enough. So, as you can imagine, when I would discover conspiracy theories, that really sent me going. Anything that would be in my environment would contribute to my delusions, and they'd honestly like craft new delusions. And with grandiose delusions, this looked like reading books where the protagonist would be me, right? And I mean, like, if I read The Hunger Games, I'd be Katniss Everdeen, and she's like the hero, so I'd be the hero. I was this really cool, great, powerful, strong, amazing person, just, you know, not really personally, although I do think I'm pretty amazing. Being these characters was what made me feel important, and maybe it's different for everyone. Maybe people, they do feel that they personally are that important, but I would become characters, and not just in grandiose delusions. This was a common theme in my psychosis, where I was Aaron Ralston, who lost his arm in the Slot Canyon in Utah. Randomly, I believed I was Anne Frank as well as Hitler. I believed I was an alien, a dog, a mermaid, and because I was a mermaid, I was underwater, so I couldn't speak out loud. And so I'd like try to do sign language. All I know in sign language is spaghetti, so it wasn't that helpful. I was always different characters, but with Grandiose Delusions, these characters would be heroes. They would be, like I said, out to save the world. And, maybe sometimes, yes, I personally was that important. Like when I believed that I could pick up any musical instrument and play it instantly, and that I was a musical genius, even though I'm not, that me personally, yes, very, very heightened. Me as characters, the hero. And coming back to my original point, one of those characters was God. Some delusions are more prominent than others. No matter what kind of delusion it is, there are delusions I can remember being the main feature in my psychosis at the time that they were happening. I may have had lesser delusions, passing delusions, but the delusions that really took hold of me, that were the most common, the most frequent, the longest stretches of them, like those delusions, the major ones, were oftentimes just me being God. This was such a big, involved delusion. The layers to it were immense. The just completely like chaotic nature of the feelings I had and the stress I was under and the loneliness, honestly. Being God was not a good thing. I was so important, but I was miserable. I felt very alone because I was maybe not the God, I was a God, and there were really no other gods around me. So I couldn't relate to people anymore because I had these godlike powers that they did not have, and I couldn't really talk about it with them. Sometimes the reason I could pass for not being psychotic is because I just didn't talk to people about what I was going through because I felt that it wasn't a conversation they could handle. Like if people asked me how I was doing, I would do that thing that everybody does. I'm fine. Regardless of whether you're fine or not, we all do it. And it was the same with psychosis. So when I believed I was a god, I tried to fit in with everyone and blend in and not draw attention to me being a god, So I was just alone in plain sight. Every time I'd be around people, I would feel that I was so far above them, not in a conceited way, not in an egotistical way, a lonely way. I'm so far above everyone else. They're all little ants to me, and I wish I had a peer. I wish I had someone who could relate. And I always felt like I had to clean up everyone's messes because humans are messy, gods are perfect. And it was on me to basically, corral everyone into behaving. I don't know that I ever really did anything about that. I just remember feeling that I had to. I had that responsibility, and I would think about it a lot. I'd think about everything that was wrong with the world. Maybe most people do that. I definitely do that. It's just that when you're thinking about all that's wrong with the world and you're consuming what's in the news and you're God, you feel personally responsible for everything that's going wrong. Humans have it so easy because they don't have to take ownership of, every single disaster. God is responsible for absolutely everything that happens on Earth. And if Earth is falling apart and going to shit, it's my fault. So yes, I was really important. I believe that was a grandiose delusion, even though it didn't feel good. I think delusions can be very complex. I think they're more nuanced than these categories, right? When I talk about delusions in my videos, because I have a few different videos about all the different types of delusions, I'm going by category. But the truth is that delusions can really bleed into each other, Having my identity delusions weren't just grandiose delusions. Oftentimes they'd be Cotard's delusion, where you'd believe you are dead, and I'd have a character that was dead. Or believing that if I was really paranoid, believing that I was being hunted, that I was someone being persecuted, I was not myself. Maybe I was a nameless person, but I might be a male, I might be a child. That bled across all types of delusions. So I think with grandiose delusions, maybe if you're in them long enough, it can morph. It can become more than just a grandiose delusion. And, I'm really only speaking from my experience, right? Everybody's experience with psychosis is different. This is a spectrum. And I know there are plenty of my friends that I can't relate to because I haven't had the same symptoms as them. And even just the way their psychosis plays out in general is so entirely different from mine. I don't really get voices talking to me. I get them screaming at me, but I don't have that relatability. And perhaps this video is not relatable to all. Perhaps it is pretty relatable. Perhaps aspects of it are relatable. This is just my experience though. This is what I went through. Grandiose delusions are one of the main types of delusions. They're very common and they're stressful. You know, when I was manic and in grandiose delusions, I was buzzing, I was vibrating, I was frenetic. You know, my whole energy was so heightened, and that doesn't always feel good. You know, take away the grandiose delusions, mania itself doesn't always feel good, and maybe it gets this image of being this really exciting, fun la time, but for me, I'm irritable, I'm quick to snap, you know, I'm impatient. Those are not the qualities you want in mania, but those are oftentimes the ones people get. So it would make sense that grandiose delusions are somewhat layered, that they're not just one fixed feeling, right? That you can have a broad range of experiences with grandiose delusions. It's not all just one type, right? And again, this is all just my experience, but I would love to hear anyone else's experiences because I'm very curious. When I found out just how different everyone's experiences were, it really opened my eyes that psychosis is actually so varied, and I think we can all learn a lot from each other. So that is really all I have for today. Thank you so much for watching this video. I truly appreciate it. Again, let me know in the comments what your experience with grandiose delusions is, or if you're a loved one of a person with psychosis, what you've seen in them, whatever you have to relate about, or even just anything you'd like to say. I'd love to hear from you. What else? Oh yeah, I make videos every Thursday/Friday, as well as TikTok compilations on Mondays. I would love if you supported my channel. You can support my channel by liking, commenting, or subscribing, or hitting that bell to get notifications. There are also ads for my merch store running below the description box, so you can check that out. And I will see you all in the next one. Thanks. Bye. So close your eyes.